We did puppet pins, puppet rigging. We also discussed compound effects and look at this, edit that. So I'm going to do both of these in this one lesson. A compound effect is an effect where it draws reference from another layer in your document, your work file. So that will be explained in this, and look at this, edit that will be explained as well. So that's part of what's coming up. So I'm going to make two layers in here. Got to have my composition selected. So two solids. This first one will be called Wave World, and then the next one will be called Caustics. I'm just going to right click inside here and do that. Caustics will be on top of Wave World. That's the way I want it. Now I'm also going to put in some type here in multiple layers. So I'm going to go select that, make it a lot smaller, and let's make it black. DCCC Art228. Okay. I'm just going to make this centered. Use my align tool down here. Center it there. Okay. If you don't have your line, it's window, align, and that's how you get it. And I just did horizontally center it. Art228. Motion. Graphics. So I'm going to put one copy of this here. Let's make this, just add some color to see how it responds to the effects that we're doing. So I'm going to make this a bit yellow there. And I'm going to make this white, just so we can see what's going to be going on, because now we've got a dark value, a light value, and some color. Alright, now I need to import a photo that I took this summer. It's also, you have access to this picture. Let's see, where did I put it? Okay. I added some raw photos and raw CineStyle shot video for you to use to practice along with, I believe it was week 5. So I have this picture of a sunrise, actually it's a sunset over the salt marshes in Cape May, not Cape May, it was Sea Isle, New Jersey. So I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit, and that's going to be the sky that we're going to be using for reference. I'm just going to hide that. And I'm going to turn off the text in this layer as well, just so you see we've got this is our initial workspace. So for Wave World, I'm going to type in my effects search, there's Wave World, and then for Caustics, do the same. Right there. So Caustics is on top, Wave World's on the bottom. Now I'm going to pre-compose the Wave World layer. So I'm just going to call Wave World, and then PC at the end for Precomp. Move all attributes into a new composition, works for me. Alright. So now, I'm going to open this up, I'm going to hit save. This is the effect of Wave World, and it's showing it in Mesh Preview. So I clicked on the layer that has it. Here's my effects control panel. So I'm going to start changing some settings. I'm going to make this height map. Let's see, so wave map controls. Right. 0. I'm just going to use the settings that I had originally before class and just copy them in so you can see how I'm changing things and what I'm changing. And hopefully this works as nicely as it did before. And this will look different because I've got a different sunrise picture than I did in the one I made for class, but that's fine. This is an effect that works off of things called producers, and I'm going to be explaining that when I get down to the producer section. So I'm just going to, well, actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause it here for a second. I'm just going to look at this. You can take a screenshot and take a look at these numbers, but it's better to do it when we finalize it, because we're going to tweak around a little bit, and I'll explain the look this, edit that by clicking on there. So we're down to the ground now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this text from this composition into here. And I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to make my ground react with that. And you can already start seeing some of the changes. You'll notice this. It's displacing the water as it passes over this area. So let's change this so we can see it better. I'm going to make it red just for the fun of it. Now it'll be more apparent. You can start seeing some shading and whatnot coming in from the effect. So now I'm going to start altering the ground settings in my effect. Now you can start seeing more of it being displaced. Now we're at the producers. The producers are what are creating the wave world effect. I'm saving, remember, save frequently, save often. This program crashes. You want to lose anything. Rings, you're going to get the waves coming out in a round shape. I'm using lines for this. And I'm going to change the position of the producer. See, right here, this ball, this is the producer right here. And that's where you change its location. You could also do it by clicking and dragging, but I'm just showing you where the numbers are. So I'm going to type in and work off of my previous file, just because it's faster. And you can already start seeing the effect look drastically different based upon where I placed it. And then how I'm editing it. This is the strength and how the effect will be working. So you're saying this is where you change it to go for something realistic or fantastic looking. This is where you would be doing it. You can already see how just changing these is changing the effect already. See what I mean? It's all about getting the look that you want and experimenting. So that's my first producer. So this is what we've got so far. We changed the render the dry area as transparent. Now if we do it solid, see how you can't see the type through it? Now you can. And the type is acting as a ground, and it's displacing the water as it's going over. And that's right, I said water, because that's how it's pronounced. So now I'm going to go to the second producer, change that to line as well. And I'm going to move this over. This is my second producer over here. So I'm going to type in where I want to change it to. Where you place these will determine what your effect is going to look like. Come on, don't crash. Like I said, this is why I save frequently. Let's save again, just be on the safe side. Okay. Sorry, this is roughly how I had my settings in class. And like I said, it's going to look a little different, but you can start seeing this animates itself. That's how the producers work. So now this effect is applied in a different Precomp. Okay? When I go back to my Caustics, if I want to edit this effect, I'm going to show you the look at this, edit that. Now I'm going to enter in my Caustics effects from my work file. I'm going to save. So the bottom will be the text in this layer. So this is an example of having, say your client wants a logo with the woodery effect going over top of it. I'm going to change this to Wave World for the wooder surface. Now you're seeing we're already getting a completely different looking thing. Now I'm going to start changing all these settings as we work. Now you're starting to see the logo being reflected around center. Soften the blur on it. Now here in sky, I'm going to choose the picture of the sky that I had. Just go wait for that. Now already you can start seeing the sunset in it. Here's where you can change the scaling of your image if you want. Make it smaller or larger. See, now I'm starting to see the horizon right there. So that's about where I'm going to have it just for this one image. Like I said, it's based upon the size of yours is when you'll notice it. That's the reflection strength in the wooder. Now the lighting will reflect how it's interacting with the wooder. So, let's see. You could also change the color of the light here and the location of it. And the height of it off of the wooder. I'm going to save it again. Now I'm just editing the material options. As I said before, I'd already messed around with this before I taught class, so I'm just going off of my notes from before, just in the interest of time, so you don't see me playing around. But you see how all the different settings change things. Now I'm going to hit save. Let's take a look at this right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Wave World Caustics. Now this lock icon, if I lock this, I can now edit this effect while I'm in this composition. See, this is its own comp. Now I'm in the main comp. And Wave World is still here. I'm going to hit save. So if I change my brightness of the waves, you'll see it and how it's reacting with Caustics over here. See how that drastically changed it? And if I knock down my contrast, like such, it's already affecting the other image. Now, if I go to my Caustics effect, we'll edit that next in a moment. I'm still on here. So let's look at the ground. Let's say if I have the height a little bit lower, how's that going to change it? See how that made it much more drastic. So I'm going to increase the height, see what that does. And you can see how it's reacting with the other elements. That's looking a little bit nicer. Let's try the steepness, because now you can see how the two effects react to one another. Wave World and how Caustics is affected by it. And see how now I'm getting a little bit smoother of the effect. So I'm going to put the original steepness down a little bit to about there. And I'm going to reduce the strength of the waves. Let's try 0.5. And again, you can see how this is working. So when I'm done editing it, I click the lock icon again right up there. I'm going to hit save. So now when I click on my Caustics layer, let's see what happens if I set the bottom of Caustics to none. It'll probably remove the text reflecting over here and there. Nope. Let's keep that at, let's try Caustics, see what that does to the effect. And I'll just make the logo the back. Let's try changing repeat mode to once. See what that does. Much better. See how it was tiled and reflected all over the place? So that was where I changed that. Let's see if I crank this up, what it's going to do to the... Alright, now you see how you can start seeing the text altering. Like such. So if that's what you want to do, that's how we're going to do it. And I'm going to keep it like this as is. So as I said, this animates itself over time. Just going to hit the 0 key. Well, I won't even do that, but you see how it's changing frame by frame. So as a reminder, I'm going to hit save. The look at this, edit that is because this Caustics is using Wave World right here as the water source. That's where that's coming into play. Let me just knock down this height just a little bit, see what that does, and smooth it out a little bit, and change the depth of the water a little bit. Change these settings a little bit. Now we're getting less distortion in the highlights of the water. And as I said before, you can mess around with this and get realistic looking effects or more like from fantasy. It's all up to you, the surface color of the water, such. So the fact that Caustics is referring to Wave World as part of its effect, I click on the lock to edit the Wave World effect while looking at it, how it's displaying with Caustics applied to it. So for instance, if I go to, there's my producer, simulation, transparent, line, height map. Oh, we're back in Wave World, that's right. So if I change my wave speed and I crank it up, you're going to see Caustics reacting differently to it. And the whole image changes. And I can still look at it and edit it from within the Wave World effect. I click the lock icon to get out of it. And now I can start editing my Caustics based on it. So that's look at this, edit that, as well as compound effects. Compound effects, again, are when one effect, such as Caustics, refers to another layer in the composition. In this one, it's the layer with Wave World, to create one unified effect.